Today on Tanaka Homestead, I'm going to talk to you about some important tips to keep your flock safe and healthy. First things first, you want to make sure that you have a safe and sturdy coop. Now, I have the Eggloo and I've been very happy with that. I've had no issues with predators getting in. I've had very large birds try to attempt getting in, but none of them have done so. It's important. It doesn't matter if it's a wooden coop, the Nestera, which is another pretty neat coop, the Eggloo. You just want to make sure it's sturdy and it will do the trick as far as preventing predators on the outside from getting in, because face it, if those predators get in, they want to get in for one thing, and that's to get your girls. So make sure you have a safe coop. Not only should you have a safe coop, you want to have a clean coop. So be attentive to your chicken coop. Make sure to clean it. It's nice to have a routine. Now, I go out and I see my girls twice a day and I make sure everything's in place and everything looks pretty good. And if I see something, I tidy it up then. I do a deep clean though periodically, which I think is very important. And that's one of the things about the Eggloo that I love. It's so easy to take it apart, to do a deep clean, and I use Dawn dish soap and water. Sometimes I use vinegar depending on what I'm doing. But man, that Eggloo, it looks like brand new when it's all done with. So the point that I'm trying to make is a clean coop is necessary. Stay on top of it and do those deep cleanings periodically. Another thing that's important is to make sure your girls have a good healthy diet, which means you want to make sure you have good chicken feed. I get my chicken feed from Tractor Supply, and it's called Nature's Best Organic Feed, and my girls absolutely love it. Has all the nutrients that my chickens need to lay those delicious eggs. Scraps are not bad, but remember, scraps should not be their main diet. Their main diet should be the feed, and scraps are fine. You can certainly include them. You just don't want it to overtake their diet because they can miss out on some really important nutrients. Clean water is also very important, and I think common sense tells us that. I can't think of anything living on earth that can do without water. But it's important to make sure the water's clean. You know, chickens, they jump around, they kind of poop on everything, and it's a good idea. Not only that, you want to make sure that you wash out the water container, especially if you live in a hot climate, because you don't want mold to grow in there. So clean water is an absolute must. Make sure to change it as often as you can. Now, disease is probably one of the biggest things to combat when you're raising chickens, okay? And here are some things to consider. You want to make sure your chickens are not overcrowded. Remember, overcrowding, that can lead to bad behavior, stress, and it's certainly not going to help with disease, especially if one of your chickens contracts something. Some ways to eliminate disease from your flock, and remember, it's not a perfect world. Sometimes you do everything right and these things just happen, is you want to be diligent about keeping wild animals out, like mice and squirrels and rats, even birds out of the coop, okay? And if you're somebody that's having a lot of issues with varmints and rodents and whatnot in your coop, it's best to remove the food at night because they're going to keep coming to a food source. So if you eliminate the food source, usually that will take care of the situation. Another thing you have to be careful of is if you're going to introduce a new chicken to your flock, you really should quarantine that chicken by itself to make sure it's not sick, because that's the last thing you need, is to put in all this work to have this beautiful, healthy, thriving flock, and then to bring an outside chicken in to mess everything up. So rule of thumb, keep them separate from your flock for about 1 month. And actually, some people even suggest getting one of your chickens, like a real mean one or one that you don't really like that much, which I don't have any of those, and putting that chicken in with the new chicken to see if that chicken also gets sick. So these are things to consider, but the point is, never take a chicken that's new to your flock and just throw them in with your current flock, because that can lead to a lot of unwanted problems. Another thing that you should do is minimize standing water if you can. Remember, standing water can attract bugs, and although chickens enjoy eating bugs, mosquitoes in particular can carry a lot of disease. I mean, recently my flock had fowl pox, and it wasn't because I introduced an outside chicken to the flock, it's because it rained a whole lot previously, and I'm confident that my chickens ended up getting fowl pox, the dry type, not the wet, from a mosquito. Now, luckily they had a pretty mild case and they're essentially over it now. Didn't have any decline in egg laying. I didn't have any decrease in appetite. In fact, I'd argue that my girls ate a whole lot more and they still drank and behaved appropriately. So I got pretty lucky, but mosquitoes are a nuisance overall. Do what you can to eliminate that standing water. You can also plant mosquito repelling plants, which I've done, which can also be helpful. So something to consider. Sometimes you can do everything right. You can have a safe coop, the best feed. I mean, everything can be perfect, and you can still have a chicken die. And for some first-time chicken owners, this can be extremely, extremely tragic. So, you know, we don't always know why, but if you go out to your coop and you do happen to see a chicken that's not moving and appears to be, you know, dead, you want to make sure to move it immediately from your flock, because you don't want, if it is something contagious, you certainly don't want your chickens getting into it, although they were probably already exposed, but you never know. So remove any chicken from the coop if they appear really to be dead or even ill. So hopefully this information was helpful. I know that there are a lot of first-time chicken owners out there, and you know, it's very exciting, but then it's like, what do I do? So all you can do is the best that you can. And I'm sure your best is just perfect for your chickens. So thank you so much for watching my channel. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button, and happy chicken raising. Bye-bye.